to another episode of Let's Talk Early Years, the podcast where we have amazing conversations about what truly matters in early years education. I am your host, Melanie Karin, and in studio with me today, Hollie Mayes, educational consultant, chatting to me about your setting, sparking curiosity and calm as opposed to chaos and clutter. Welcome in studio, Hollie Mayes.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Hollie, such a pleasure, such a privilege to have a fellow educator turned amazingly successful businesswoman in studio with me this morning. So
thank you.
Thank you for your kindness and your time and just for sharing who you are with the rest of the early years community. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, tell us, who is Hollie Mayes?
So I was an early years teacher and was in early years for 15 years in education. I started out in London and then moved to Singapore and taught in Singapore for 10 years. And then as the world goes round, ended up in Dubai, which is a wonderful opportunity that was presented to my family. And I thought after 15 years, I wanted to try something new. And I actually stumbled across what I wanted to do by accident, I'm actually going to say. It wasn't necessarily pre-planned. What happened was I had twins, which I was very blessed with. And then when you become a new mum, you meet new people and you meet new mummy friends and you meet people who have children the same age that you do.
Yes.
And so you have them over for play dates, or you go over to their houses for play dates, and you kind of have this new village, this new community.
Absolutely, and I love that. It's particularly in Dubai, you need that,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And so people would come over to my house. This was even in Singapore where the twins were born. And it's apartment living in Singapore. You don't have a lot of space like we're privileged with in Dubai.
Right.
And they'd be like, oh my goodness. And I'd just put like a little setup up for the kids so they could play and we could drink coffee while it was hot,
Right.
rather than you make it and 4 hours later you've forgotten about it.
Right.
And they'd be like, wow. And I'd say, oh, that's not wow. Like, I can show you wow. But this was like a 2-minute setup.
Because you're leaning into your educational background.
Exactly. So as an
Right,
early
so-
years teacher, you're very
yes.
used to setting up environments for children to play independently.
Yes.
So that they can learn by themselves, they can take their own learning journey. And so I carried this through to home naturally.
I love that.
And then all my new friends that I was making that weren't teachers were amazed by it. And I was like, oh, you guys, it's not a secret. Let me share these top tips with you. This is what teachers have been doing for years and years.
Yes.
Share the knowledge, share the love. Here, if you do this and do this and do this, I would suggest they will end up learning these skills. And I will presume they will
So you became
play
the
by
mommy
themselves.
coach, right?
Well,
Yeah, I
don't
love
know.
it. Yes.
I just feel like I wanted to share knowledge
Yeah.
with people that didn't have it to make everyone's life easy, and also the children. You know, you want children to thrive at all moments of their life. It's what every parent wants for their child.
Absolutely.
They want the best.
Yes.
And so why wouldn't I share information that I've studied for the past 15 years, and educators before me have been studying for hundreds of years, of how to give our children the best start in life in the foundation stage. And that's actually how Hollie Mayes educational design came up, because teachers educationally design a space every day,
I love that.
every single day.
I love that. Kudos to all our early years educators.
They're amazing.
They do it without a plan sometimes. It's just inherent to us, that we can come in and create these invitations and watch the learning happen.
I know,
I love
exactly.
it,
And so
yeah.
I feel like let's share knowledge that we have as educators with parents and with new educators coming into the field, with new NQT teachers coming in. Like, let's share all this knowledge that we have built over years, and let's get knowledge from new trained staff that have learned different techniques. Like, it's constantly learning and
Collaboration
evolving.
and community. I love that.
Exactly.
And you started your little community in Singapore and then you transitioned into Dubai.
I did.
And you just brought that with you?
Yes.
You started a little group at home, or how did it take flight?
Oh no, so what happened actually was I came across the idea, I would say, in Singapore as becoming a new mum, and I thought, actually, this could share a lot of knowledge with a lot of people, and that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
And then we moved to Dubai as a family, and I thought, I'm going to set up a business. And I'm going to set up a business in educational design that helps parents at home, that helps educators in schools, that helps other interior designers who are designing big spaces. So a lot of people are moving to Dubai. They're buying huge 5-bedroom houses, their family home that they've worked really hard to achieve. And then an amazing interior designer comes and designs the kitchens and the bathrooms, and then just puts like a table in the playroom, and you're like,
There's
you're
no
missing something.
intentionality behind that.
And so if we could educationally design a space, I mean, there's a reason you have a 5-bedroom home, because most of those rooms are taken up by mini humans, not big humans. And so let's design the bedrooms with an educational intent. Let's design the playroom that we're fortunate enough to have a whole room for a playroom. Let's design it beautifully and educationally rather than just aesthetically.
Right.
And so my business helps residential people at home wanting to do bedrooms and playrooms. It helps educators, and it helps people in the design business.
I love it. And I love that you have taken your educational background, and before we came on camera, we spoke about the multitude of skills that we as educators have that we sometimes don't recognize. You know, it comes so inherently, it comes so naturally to us. And I'm assuming the same with yourself in terms of decor and design. I can imagine your early years classroom just looking like really amazing and inviting and calm. I'm just looking at you. You're just exuding this beauty and this calm, and I love that. But I want to just commend you on having taken that background as an early years educator and transitioned into successful businesswoman. Well done to you, Hollie.
Thank you very much. It's very
Well
kind.
done to you. You're such an inspiration to us as a community of early years educators and parents too, you know, but I really wanted to shine a light on what you're doing and how you've made that successful transition. So thank you and well done.
Thank you very much. That's super kind of you.
So I want to speak to the teacher.
Yes, speak to the teacher.
Hollie, we often speak about the environment as the third teacher, and you're speaking about wanting to share that with parents and with teachers alike. But what does that really mean?
So I would say, if you think of a teacher in a classroom, she cannot teach and personalize lessons to 20, 25, 30 children at exactly the same time.
Right.
And what a teacher's goal is a teacher wants every single child to thrive.
Yes.
But she has to split up her time between the children in her classroom. It's not a one-on-one private tuition situation. And so what the teacher does is the teacher uses the environment as another teacher. So when you say it's the third teacher, it's like imagining that you've got you, and you're hopefully very fortunate enough to have an assistant in your classroom, and then you've got the environment. That's the third teacher, that you don't need to be there, and independent of you and any adult, the environment is teaching the children.
That's going to take a bit of planning, a bit of intentionality.
For sure.
Talk to us about that.
So when you see your little one go to nursery or go to foundation stage, the first thing, if you look at them and not look at the room, you will see is a little face peeking up, peering over, having a look. And what that little face is doing is it's looking for all the invitations to learning and invitations to play. And so you may think, as someone that doesn't understand early years education, oh, they've just put a bunch of toys out in the classroom. But every single material in that space has been thought of, planned for, and really, really considered, so that when the teacher is not with the children, the environment is teaching and helping them learn.
Right. So do we need to plan these spaces? Do they just happen naturally? I mean, I spoke about our natural ability to create these spaces, but I do think a little bit of planning goes into that, right?
Teachers plan, just like a year 4, 5, 6 teacher or a secondary school teacher would plan a lesson in, I don't know, history or geography or whatever it was. An early years teacher plans for their lessons. So if they're teaching phonics, for example, and they have a small group learning how to blend or segment simple CVC words, they've got maybe 4 or 5 children. The rest of the activities in the room will be set up to be phonetic literacy-based activities.
Right.
And so, yes, massive amounts of planning goes into it. And I actually feel like if you compare it to running a marathon, you're not going to get up and tomorrow, being someone who has never run before in your life, be like, sure, I'll run a marathon. No training, no prep, no nothing.
Yeah.
No one would expect you to do that.
Ridiculous, right.
And so in an early years environment, you're planning, you're prepping, you're making sure you're taking all the children on that journey to surpass this marathon of this early years education. This academic year is a marathon, it's not a sprint.
Yeah.
And education is a marathon. It's a long race of continual learning.
Yes.
It's not a sprint. I can't just shove some things down with no planning and preparation and think something's going to happen and I'm just going to suddenly be in the Olympics. No, it's not going to happen. It's not how it's going to work, you know? And so, yes, planning and preparation goes into it. Just like in a home, if you prepare the learning environment that you have at home, whether it's your child's bedroom, their playroom, the corner behind your sofa in the TV room, it doesn't matter what space it is, but if you take care and thought over how to prepare it, the greater the benefits are going to be.
Absolutely. I hear you speaking about intentionality. I really hear you saying that throughout what you've just said, is that have that intention, you know, that meaningful play will take place. And I also hear you saying, and I think to the relief of our educators, that you don't have to be everywhere all the time.
You can't.
You can't. But I feel like very often we take on this responsibility of, you know, I need to. And yet we've got this third teacher available to us, but we need to make that investment into preparing that space. But Hollie, I also want to say to you, you've made this successful transition from educator to career woman. But what did you see in the early years that was perhaps missing at the time that you were in practice?
I think sometimes it can all run away with us as teachers. And so you have to do assessments and they have to learn this. And then there's this ELG, this early learning goal that they have to achieve. And so it's like a bit of a rat race almost. It just keeps going and going and going. And actually sometimes I just think, stop. Just remember the tiny mini humans that are in your classroom that need you. And remember that it's not a race, it's a foundation. The curriculum is called the foundation stage. Yes. And so I would often actually give presentations to parents. I used to be head of literacy and phonics. I've done it for 10 years. And I would give presentations on reading skills, writing skills, and how parents could help at home. And one of the first things I would say is, okay, we're going to build a house. Forget what we're about to talk about. Just let's say we're going to build a house together. And I'm the builder and you're the client. And so I say to you, okay, we've got 80% of the foundations ready. So then compare that to being like 80% in an exam. Yeah, we're good, we're fine. Let's move on to the next level. So now we've got the foundations and now we've got ground floor. And we had a really good ground floor year, let's say reception year, FS year. And we got 85%, great. And then we went into the next stage, which is level 1, so call that year 1. But we didn't really have a good year 1 year, so we got 60% there. But it's okay, let's just carry on and build the next level of the house.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. There's no way you would move on and not expect the house to completely crumble if you don't have solid foundations.
Absolutely.
And then you build on every year.
Absolutely.
And so to answer your question about
what was missing?
Yeah, what was missing with education, I think, is just going too quick. And we're not stopping and really paying attention to the fact that why do we go to school? We go to school because we are learning how to learn. It's not that we need to get 100% in the test of memory. We're learning independence, communication, collaboration. Are you a good human being? Are you kind? Can you work with other people? Can you solve a problem?
Yeah.
Are you a critical thinker, or do you just give
and
up
you,
in 2
and you
seconds?
believe that the space can meaningfully contribute to that kind of learning?
100%.
Tell me.
Again, comes back to intentionality, and I think also comes back to personalization. So if you know the children in your class, you know the skills they need to work on.
Now you're speaking about that slowing down. that slowing down in that space is where we're actually going to get to know them, when we're not so in our heads about everything we need to accomplish, which are really primarily academic goals that we're thinking of, that we think is so important and overarching, but you're speaking about being intentional about getting to know these people so we can get to the business of learning how to learn. Am I correct?
100%.
Yeah.
And how, once you know that little person, how can you help them thrive in their own way? And so if you're wanting to help all of the children in your class thrive, you can't possibly do that all at the same time.
Yes.
So if you know that actually this cohort, and every class is different, right? Every class you get, every year you go through, there's just a different mesh and, like a different way that they gel together.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have those classes as an educator and you're like, oh, they just work. And sometimes you're like, they need split up into different groups next year. It's just not a good combination to help them thrive as individuals.
Right.
And so when you know the children and you slow down and you get to know them, and then you get to know what you want to help them with. Is it collaboration skills? Is it problem solving? Do they give up at the first hurdle? Is it actually, they're really good at working together. Let's push them even further. Like, could we develop their communication and language skills? Because their collaboration is good. Let's get as much language into them as possible. So when they're in year 3 and they're writing creative writing essays, actually it's just flowing out of them. They've got this beautiful writer's voice.
You're speaking about that foundation being at 100%,
100%.
before we build the next floor.
Because and what do parents want? Parents want their children to thrive.
Absolutely.
Parents want their children, and I want my children to find school easy and love learning and have an intrinsic motivation to learn.
Yes.
And I feel you can only have an intrinsic motivation to learn when learning is fun.
Yeah.
And learning's not fun when it's hard.
Yes, I agree. And we don't want hard.
No.
We want fun. We
Yeah.
want fun. We want to be the fun people. We want to be the people that inspire that wow when they walk into the classroom in the morning. I always say that to my teachers. I say, what about your setup this morning? What about your invitation makes them say, wow, like you were speaking about earlier, when they walk in the door and they're peeping in and they had a little bit of a rough morning and they don't necessarily want to let go of mom or dad, and they come into the classroom, what's inviting them? What's saying you're going to have a really amazing day here with us, and what says that we've catered to you particularly and intentionally for the day, for the duration of the day. Yeah,
It's the same at home.
How so?
Well, let's open the door. And it doesn't, I think there's a confusion about, oh, it sounds like so much work.
Yeah.
And I think in our lives, we're busy parents, we're working, or, we're busy designers and we're designing the kitchen, we've got the bathroom, we've got to pick the tiles, and, oh, the contractor's done this and that. But just stop for a minute. What's the goal? The goal is that your child comes home, opens that door, sees a little invitation to play on a table, and goes, oh, wow, and goes straight to that table.
Yeah.
And doesn't go, Mama, I'm bored. I need a snack.
Yes.
Can I have the iPad? Can I watch TV?
Yes.
Oh, can you play with me? Like, how much would you enjoy it if you had spent as a parent, let's say, I don't know, genuinely it doesn't take a massive amount of time if you've put the thought in 10 minutes maximum to set up a whole playroom, like 2 minutes to set up a table. If you spent that time in the morning before they've got home from school, and the first thing they do when they open the door is they go to that table and they're not on a screen bothering you, moaning.
I think the return on investment
The return is huge. And
almost
it's
priceless, right?
And that's what it is. I say you need to invest in educational design, in whatever space you are in.
Yes.
Which is why when you go to a really good playroom or a really good soft play or a restaurant that's thought about the play area, you go there.
Yes.
Because you're like, this is amazing, and they're playing and they're learning and they're having a great time.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be different in your home.
Yeah. Or in your classroom.
Or in your classroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
It should be exactly the same in any space. And I feel educational design transcends any space that children learn, thrive, and play in. It doesn't matter the space.
Yeah, I love that, Hollie. I love that. And I feel that in Dubai particularly, we have such an amazing access to beautiful play spaces. Even nursery schools, working in the GCC and just seeing the level of intention that goes into designing nursery schools. It is next level.
Yeah.
It really is. And the amount of access that we have to beautiful resources, and we've got a choice, and our children do. But I also think that in that privilege, in the muchness that we have access to, our spaces can become cluttered and overwhelming, and I think also as leaders, with our, again, intention to showcase the business to prospective parents, we want to have all these toys on display and all these resources on display, and all this clutter might happen without us intending to have it that way. Can you speak to that?
Definitely. I think it can become very overwhelming when any space is cluttered or crowded.
Yeah.
And I think you have to think of yourself as an adult. If you go to the office or any space, if you go to the kitchen to make a cup of coffee and it's a total mess, do you want to sit there and spend time, and does it feel lovely? Do you go to the office and you go to your desk and there's paper and cables and pens and old coffee and yesterday's snack plate left? Do you think that's going to be a beautiful environment for you to work in? And play is a child's work.
Absolutely.
And so we wouldn't want that environment. So why would we expect our children to want that environment?
Yeah.
And I always actually say the first thing I do when I walk into any space, whether it's a classroom, whether it's at home, whether it's in a commercial playroom, whatever it is I say, kneel down.
Mm-hmm. Get on the child's level.
And get on the child's height, because you are seeing a different viewpoint to the child. And so if you actually imagine, often in a child's space, we put everything down low because we think, oh, it's great, they can access it, they've got easy reach access.
Yes.
And then when we walk into the room, we don't actually see that. We see what's up above, which is nice, clear, open walls. And we think, oh, it's okay, it's fine. And if you actually get on your knees and kneel down and see what they see, you think, oh, and you get a bit of a shock.
Yes.
And so I think,
I like that reflective practice. I love that. You're encouraging us to be reflective practitioners.
I'm encouraging you to be reflective practitioners and think, how do I feel?
Yes.
Like, if I feel that an overwhelming space is not a lovely place to be, like even if you think of the lighting of a space, the design, if you go to a dentist and you go to a spa, it's a very different energy and feel that you have.
Absolutely.
If you go to an accident and emergency room where they have to have everything bright, on the go, the sounds are noisy, all the instruments are there at the touch of a hand. It's not an environment that you think, if I compared that to a spa.
Yes.
Or like my living room.
Or my playroom.
Or my
classroom.
And so the energy and the feel that you have in the room makes a big difference. And over clutter and overstocking things on shelves comes back to how do you feel in the space, and then how do you use
clutter
it.
can make us feel a bit overwhelmed.
It overwhelms your nervous system, actually.
Yes.
And so it has a great impact on your nervous system. And when your nervous system is in that fight or flight mode, it's not going to do amazing learning.
So what is your advice to us?
I think the biggest piece of advice is, as a teacher, I would say, don't expect that the environment is given to you as it should be.
Right.
Take control of how you feel it should be designed.
Right.
And then I'd say, as a parent, just if it becomes to the point that you're like, I don't know where to begin. A lot of parents and clients say to me, I just don't know where to start. I say the first thing we're going to do is we're going to empty the space.
Yes.
because you can't see the wood for the trees. You have to
Yes.
start again. And you can do that in a classroom. When I would go into and teachers, you move classrooms all the time. Like, rare is it that you get to stay in the same classroom. You move a year group, or there's a switch around, or it's now going to be a science room or whatever. And so you get given this new classroom.
A blank canvas.
A blank canvas that's got a half blank canvas. Maybe it's got bits of furniture in it and someone's left the cupboard like this, and
Right.
you've got the old files that were used over and over. Like, I would, when I go into a classroom, move all the furniture into the middle of the room, because I can't move it out into the hallway because everyone will moan at
I
me.
love that you're coaching us here.
And so I'd move every single chair, I'd stack the chairs up, I'd put the tables on top of each other, I'd bring all the bookcases, anything that I could move, I'd move into the middle.
Right.
If you're lucky enough to have a hallway you can move into, you could do that, but I would have annoyed some other teachers. And then just look at the space and think, how is this going to work for me and my children? And then I'd reset up the space, and then I'd get the kids in, and I think, it's not working. Change it.
Right. So observation, observing how they play in the space that you've designed and set up for them.
100%. It's not static. A home is not static.
Yeah.
Every educational environment should be transitional.
Right.
And I think that's the key takeaway, is don't feel like everything is stuck in one place once you've put it there. And design a space that can move with the children, that can grow with the children, and that can grow with what you need it to do for you.
So how do we move from cluttered and chaos to inviting and warmth? We are going to start with our own blank canvas as far as possible, right? I would say do a declutter as well of the toys and the resources in your class. You know, I think too much is on display. Too much is there, you know, and I feel like you're saying, children become overwhelmed. And I think we become overwhelmed in that space too, you know, and that what we need to put out on the shelves should be there with intention, and we can maybe rotate those things, you know, so that children don't become bored with what we've actually set out in the classroom.
Exactly.
Am I right?
100%, and that's what an early years teacher is amazing at.
Yeah.
And I would say that the clutter causes distraction. And what we want to do is we want to build attention and focus.
Yes. Hollie, invitations to play. How do we turn that into permission and possibility and wow? How do we do that in the morning or in the afternoon? Help us, again, leaning into your experience as an educator. How do we create this wow in the morning or in the afternoon? Or throughout the day, how do we create these invitations to play?
I would say 3 words. I would say thought, planning, and preparation. And actually, I'm going to say 4. Thought, planning, and personalization, as well as the preparation, personalization. Because if you know your child,
Right.
and you think about what they need to work on or how you would like to help them learn, then you can prepare for it.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that it's concise, it's easy to do. You haven't given us an encyclopedia here.
Yeah.
And because I think you're leaning into that educator again. You know, you've just given us the bare details of this is how you can be successful in your classroom.
And it takes effort. Like, it's not like you can do it in 1 second and not consider it. Thought is effort, but you're reaping so much more benefits in the investment of thought that you're giving.
Yes.
And so what do you want as an educator? You want the children to thrive.
Yes.
What do you want as a parent? You want your children to thrive.
Yes.
And if we want our children to thrive, then we have to put thought into how we do it for them.
Yeah.
And also, maybe I take that statement back a little, not how we do it for them, but how we do it for the environment to help them.
Absolutely.
Because what we want to do is actually, as a parent or an educator, we want to step back.
Yeah.
Because we want them to be I want them to play independently.
Yeah.
I want them to be great problem solvers. I want them to communicate with each other.
Yes.
Well, if you're there all the time, how do they even learn how to do it?
Yes.
I want them to be bored and push through boredom.
Yes.
Well, then let them be bored and
Yes.
stop entertaining them all the time.
That's a topic for another podcast to talk about that as well, you know, because
It's
again,
big.
I think that our intervention is just overwhelming and we're not giving them that space to be creative. But I think we've kind of now gotten and insight into how children learn and being intentional about their spaces. Hollie, last words. You've given us so much wisdom. Last words for our educators. But I want to also say that you spoke about children having to thrive in our spaces, our intention for them. You spoke about parents wanting their children to thrive. You spoke about parents wanting to have that space in their homes where actually they can have a moment. But I want to add to that and say, I want that for our educators too, that they thrive and that they don't feel overwhelmed with the best intentions. And I love our educators, and I will continually be one that just champions for them. But I think we're very often overwhelmed with these goals that we set for ourselves. And I hear from what you're saying that we can unburden ourselves of some of it by inviting the environment to be our assistant, to be that third teacher. So thank you for that wisdom. Yeah?
Exactly.
Last words, Hollie.
I say be kind to yourself.
Yes.
And be kind to the children. And it's not a race.
Yeah.
And the goal for everyone is to thrive and enjoy learning.
Yeah.
And if we can find ways to help everyone, then let's start with the environment.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Lastly, where can our audience find you? Our parents and our educators are going to love this episode, I know, and they're going to want to contact you. They're going to lean into your wisdom and into your amazing design capability. I know on Instagram, you are there. You are just representing and doing the most amazing things. Is that where we can contact you?
I'd say Instagram is the best. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, but Instagram I'm probably more forefront in, and so hm.educational.design is the best place to find me.
Okay.
And I love a message, I love a comment, reach out and let me know your thoughts.
You're going to be flooded. You're going to be flooded. I love it. Hollie Mayes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mummy. Thank you.
That was Hollie Mayes reminding us that our spaces are not just where learning happens, but how learning happens. Whether you're designing a space, a classroom, your home, intentionality matters. Our spaces don't shout, they invite. Thank you for joining me on Let's Talk Early Years. Find us on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. I'm looking forward to your questions, your reviews, and comments on this amazing conversation. See you next time.